I'd love to tell you that Rift is bad, that I hated it, that playing for 8 hours made me sad. I'd love to say it's got an awful UI and terrible mechanics and grating music, but honestly, Rift isn't bad. It's just a stark warning about what happens when you're mediocre. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Josh Hayes. I've spent years playing the best MMO games available. Now it's time to do the opposite and try and find the worst of the worst. I'm going to play them all so you don't have to. Join me on a journey through the most awful MMOs I can find. Drop a like on the vid and sub to the channel for more awful MMOs and ring the bell so you don't miss a single future video. If you're enjoying the series so far and would like it to continue, please consider supporting through the Patreon like all these awesome people have. You'll find the link in the description below. Today, we are playing Rift. Rift. Even the name makes a few of you perk up and go, oh, I've heard of that. Yeah, Rift was a really big MMO for a short while. It was even in shops. You could physically buy this. I remember adverts for this being on TV and in cinema. Rift was meant to be this big new game. Some even whispered it was the Warcraft killer. Although, let's be real, every MMO released since Warcraft has claimed to be that. So, Rift was indeed this big MMO made by Tryon, and for the time, it was decent. It was a buy-to-play game with a subscription optional. It was expensive, and now, well, it's fallen a long way. Rift is now on Steam for free, so I downloaded it, but I was curious about the DLC offered, and I scrolled down and £140. The recommended DLC for this game can be bought as a bundle for £140. This means whoever now owns Rift, you either think extremely highly of your game, or you're a greedy, money-hungry company who will milk the nostalgic players into the ground and fleece any new players for every penny they can get. The kind of company that doesn't care about the quality of a game and only sees it as a means to a profitable end. Who is Rift owned by anyway? Ah, right. Our old friend Gamigo. You know, they've still not emailed me back about working together since the Fiesta video, but I wake up every day hoping. So downloading Rift, and the first thing you experience is the Steam advert with quite possibly the most bored voiceover I've so far heard in this series. Seriously, this is meant to be professional, epic voiceover. Let's just enjoy this together.
The day the dragons came through the rifts, our peaceful lives ended. Their armies invade our world, destroy our homes, and slaughter our people. They grow stronger every battle, unleashing new monsters and new magic, but we will not surrender. Together, we can stand against them. Together, we can fight. And together, we can drive them back. Join us, heroes. Fight for glory. Fight for peace. Fight for Talara.
That was bad. First impressions are bad. I also like how the voiceover ends with the word Talara, which is the name of the fictional universe we're in, but they've added such an intense reverb it sounds like Talara. So the game is 23 gigabytes, making it one of the largest games reviewed in this series so far. Launching the game from Steam opens up the Glyph launcher, which was used by Tryon to store all of their games together. Now, Tryon actually made a few decent games back in the day. Arcade, Defiance, Trove, Rift. These guys clearly know how to make games, but not how to sustain them. Because most of their games were subject to a fate worse than death. The worst fate an MMO can have. Being sold to Gamigo. The launcher itself though, yeah, this looks fine. Lines are clean, fonts readable, no issues here. Now you'll actually see I have a tune already because I played this years and years ago before I even began working on YouTube, and I don't remember a thing about the game or story. So I'll delete this tune and we'll begin again. There's a few alien races to choose from, but I'll go with F because it looks most like a human and I'm a boring player when it comes to choosing a race. Here's a nice touch with classes though. Rift sees the game as having 4 main roles, the holy trinity of DPS, tank and healer, but then support, which makes all the other roles better. And each class has 4 general builds, allowing any class to be any role. Now some of the classes need you to buy the Soul Pack DLC DLC to play as that role, so we'll look at the cash shop later. For now, I'll go with Warrior, and aha, the first text mistake. The description of the class on the right uses the pronoun she. Now, I've got no problem with any gender being any class. You'll know that I hate gender locking, but I've made a male character. This should say he. The face customization is really nice. Remember, this game released in 2011, 10 years ago. This was good 10 years ago and still acceptable today. The intro movie plays and it stutters a few times. It's a nice enough movie with one glaring error. There are no subtitles. Accessibility options, people. Subtitles should always be on by default, especially if your game starts with a cutscene. Now we're in, and backstory on you. You are not just a chosen one. You are an engineered chosen one. A created superhuman and ascended. A super special Mary Sue destined to save the world. You have literally been made for this one purpose, and every NPC will remind you of this all the time. Now for the tutorial. It is, for the most part, brilliant. Everything is well paced, the voiceover is superb, the controls are well explained, and when I go to change the keybinds, I'm noticing the small stuff. The menu UI is consistent, the lines are smooth, the aesthetic is held throughout, and when I try to change the key, it just asks if I want to rebind and then lets me. This is exactly the way you rebind keys. Take note, Fiesta. This is how you do it. I accept the first quest by talking to the dude by the door. He tells us to go and find the time machine. We've not had too much background thrown at us yet, but time machines sound cool, so off we go. My first quest is to kill several of these husks, so I attack them with auto attack and then I wait. And I wait. And I wait some more. And my god, if this is the early combat, then settle in, because we're going to be here a while. At least this gives me some time to admire the scenery. Early combat in Rift feels like 3D RuneScape. Click and wait. Not bad, just long. The attack animations are fine. The combat noise is fine. The character motion capture is fine. Everything's just fine. I like the scenery, the burning village looks good, NPCs being chased around by enemies look good, puts a bit of movement and action into the scene, makes the whole situation feel a bit more fleshed out and real. The music matches up nicely, epic strings, environmental sounds, flames and screams. It enhances the situation without distracting. This, so far, is the opposite of Fiesta, which is a good thing. Hand in the quest, finally, and go activate some defense turrets. Just run up to and click them. Level up while fighting. Now, despite leveling up early, the level up tutorial actually happens later on or so. Slight pacing issue there. And also the reason the combat is taking so long right now. You'll see more of that issue later too. Oh, sweet. Look at that giant twisted abomination. A huge two-headed giant. I want to kill that. So I attack it, and it ignores me and attacks an unkillable human NPC. Brilliant! I can take this down. Just gotta leave this running for a bit and go grab a drink. Big dude down, back to the defense consoles. I love how this enemy is just stabbing at them. It's not even on, dude, just run away. And he's all, die, turret. I admire his drive. Run further on, attack an enemy that's way too tough for me, and so run up to these guards for help. And to the game's credit, they do help me, so the early area NPC AI isn't bad. Next few quests need me to go and gather source stones, which are dropped by enemies, and every single fight with an enemy almost kills me. Like, I am taken one hit from death in every fight. Either this is meant to happen, or I'm somehow really underpowered. I'm not sure which, but this definitely feels slow. I do manage to kill 5 eventually, because when you're not in combat, your HP refills quite quickly. The enemy design so far is lovely. I mean, look at this forgotten war machine. It's metal plate armor held together by pulsating red energy, and I love how its bladed fist just spins around, because it can. They don't need to animate that, but they did, and I noticed. The sounds are also terrific. The scraping and clanging of metal when fighting this is so pronounced. Pushing forward and get to the little bastion of last light within this small tutorial area. It looks fine. At first I'm thinking, wow, looks like that's a cheap knockoff of the FF14 Aetherite Crystal Teleportation Network. But then I remember, no, this came first. So Final Fantasy XIV, you have some explaining to do. Hand in all the quests, and now I need to go and kill hulking phantasms, which means more combat. So far I'm thinking, nice design, dull game. The movement is responsive and smooth, the UI is clean and consistent, the audio design is spot on, background music is ambient and appropriate, sound effects are well placed, even the character menu looks fine. And the weapon designs match the world aesthetic and the enemies look cool. I mean, look at these chains on the enemy, but something just feels off about the whole experience, something I can't quite place yet. I'll try and explain it later, but I'm aware that right now, something just doesn't sit right. I almost die killing every one of these phantasms, but in a nice touch, on the quest that I need to use an item, the item appears in the quest list on the right hand side for ease of access. This is a quality of life upgrade, and I really like this. Plus, the quest object I'm using kills enemies in one hit, so I would like more of these, please and thank you. I restart this machine to fight Frederick, and I don't do well. Two issues here. First of all, Frederick is not now and never has been a scary name. Your villains won't strike fear into the hearts of mortal men if their nickname is Fred. And two, how am I meant to win this? I'm equipped with the best stuff I've been given so far and have got what few boosts I've found active, and I'm still dying. So when you die, you can soul walk, which basically puts you right back where you are and then you just respawn where you decide to wait for 60 seconds. But you can only do that once an hour unless you pay for more. You can always resurrect at a nearby shrine, but every time you die, you'll lose vitality, around 20%, and when your vitality reaches 0, you'll lose some hit points permanently until you go to a healer and pay your vitality debt. I feel this is one of those ideas that sounded great in the design phase but just adds unnecessary journey time for the player to keep walking back to a healer. Complex to play doesn't always mean fun to play. I'm wondering if this opening area is actually balanced around teams, with several new players all grouping up at the start, but I don't have that luxury, so I return to the buff box from the camp, I buff up and I go and take on old Freddy boy again. Oh great, you have to watch his battle speech fully every time you summon him. And oh good, I die again. Maybe I need to grind. Grind to beat the tutorial. Well, okay then, I mean, I'm not having fun. But there's still something misplaced here, some deep feeling that this game just isn't right. Also, I've noticed now that I've been recording with the bottom of the screen cut off, so I've fixed that for the rest of the video. See? I'm a professional YouTuber. There's no other quests here, and grinding would take an age. I mean, I meet a new player and ask if they want to team up, but they're off to bed, so I'm just still soloing this. Let's keep taking on Fred until I win, and, the quest is done? It's finished. What? How? Did somebody else do it? Did Fred just give up? I don't know how this happened, but my quest list now just says go across the bridge and talk to the faceless man. Okay. This dude needs me to take this soul-reclaiming device and go and get Shyla the Fallen's soul, but I need to subdue, meaning kill her first. So I go and give it a go, and okay, it's going good. Halfway there. Oh, she then creates a shield and spawns some ads, and how am I meant to win this fight? I can't do that much damage that quickly. Then my prayers are answered. And some of you Rift fans are probably thinking, oh god, finally he found the abilities page that the game doesn't tell you about and he's going to actually use his fighter abilities. Nope, I found a shop. And it sells potions. Gonna tank my way through this, oh yes. And hang on, wait, what's that? The shop sells Mudder's Milk, which for anyone unsure is a reference to the greatest sci-fi TV show ever made. After finding a hidden Firefly reference, I am much more on board with Rift. I stock up on HP pots and go and take on Shyla again, wait for my health to drop low and pot up. Oh, there's a 3-minute cooldown on using potions again. I didn't know that. If I'd have known that, I would have waited till later to use it to maximize the effectiveness, but oh well, let's try. I take her down, use the soul machine, and go back to finish the quest. You need to jam her soul into the machine and fight it again, so after Soul Battle 2, Electric Boogaloo, I'm told to get some anima essence from Soul Callers. Basically, every tutorial quest is go and kill X to get Y, and then move on. You can tell if you're going to win a fight within a few seconds by how much your health goes down and how much the enemy's health goes down. This cannot be how the game works, so I run away and I check the menus, the skills, and abilities. Wait, what? There's an abilities menu? Which shows all my attacks and stuff. You see, I didn't find this because opening the character menu shows you a menu called Skills, but that only lists crafting and gathering and general life stuff. To me, combat attacks would also come under Skills, but not in Rift. They're under abilities. There's no tutorial explaining this though. Now, as a warrior, some of my abilities build up my resource, shown by 3 little swords under my HP bar, and then some other abilities spend it. The game even has the abilities labelled as builder or spender, which is nice, and oh god, this is so much faster now. I know what we're doing now. Now we're in business. Few more quests go down and now we're marching up a hill with Liberty Prime. This giant mech has an AoE punch that just scatters enemies, so it's quite fun to fight alongside it. And at the top of the hill we fight our first Rift, the namesake and main unique mechanic of the game at the time. Nowadays, the Elder Scrolls Online might have its Daedric Dolmens and Skychains, but Rift was doing this way back in 2011. When a rift opens up, the floor goes black, tentacles sprout up, and a tear happens in reality which floods monsters into our world. You have to kill enough of them to close the rift. You've got this counter on the right hand side showing the numbers 1, 2 or 3 at the top relating to which stage of the rift I'm at, and then the bag icon on the bottom showing the reward which I can click when I kill the rift. Taking down the rift takes a few minutes, and then we meet the big bad guy, the one everyone is afraid of, Regulos. Kind of like Fred. Fantasy names are meant to be scary, and Regulos just sounds like the sci-fi version of the word regular. You might as well call your name Generica if you're going to call your bad guy Regulos. But Regulos, stupid sounding as he is super powerful, so we complete our ascended destiny and run through the time machine to the past. The whole plot of this game now is we need to stop Regulos in the past to prevent this future. So now we're in the past, and the landscape looks nicer. There's fewer tentacles, but we can still see an open rift in the distance in the skybox. That's actually really cool. Chat to this NPC, ask a question, and then we get, quite oddly, a rather well done tutorial video. I don't mind this. It's pretty concise, it uses visual examples, and it has a fine voiceover. Yeah, explain more systems like this if we ask about them. This video is explaining the soul tree, and this system means there's a massive amount of variation within Rift's character building. Every time you level up, you get a few points, and when you put points into the leaves of a soul tree, that's the passive skills at the top, you get better, and the more points you put into a certain tree, the more activated abilities you unlock. That's the roots of the tree at the bottom. You can then mix and match which tree you advance, and mix and match the abilities you put onto your hotbar. So you can have 70% tank tree and 30% damage if you like. It's actually very freeform. I do something unusual now. I ignore the quests and go and take down the rift because I want to. See this right here? This is what games mean when they say you can do whatever you want. Many open world MMOs claim you can do whatever you want, but don't actually give the player anything specifically to do. Rift has let me ignore the quest and go and kill a rift because it looks cool and I wanted to do this. This is decent open world freedom. This dude also teams up with me, so thank you, whoever you were. Rift down, wander around town, and go and do some quests. The Portal Master gives me the Recall ability, which makes sense, and in this room a sciencey lady needs a message from the future I've brought with me. Look at this. This glass distilling flask, this giant orb. It reflects and refracts the light through it in real time. You can see the reflection. That's brilliant. They didn't need to do that. They could have just made a translucent glass orb. This isn't even an item you can interact with. This is set dressing. And they made glass light interaction. Small touches that show a high level of craftsmanship. And with this noticed again, the feeling creeps back. What is wrong with Rift? There is something. I know it's there, but I can't quite put it into words yet. Check out the world map. It's sizable, with each region divided into level recommendations. Now, level scaling does exist, but only downwards. So you can out-level a zone, then return and play with your mates as the correct fair level, but you still have the harder zones to work toward, which is one of the more acceptable ways of doing level scaling. Take down more rifts, interact with this glowing satchel of explosives, and it starts a quest. So inanimate objects can start quests too, not just quest givers. Okay, and finishing those quests shows me the treasure alert symbol, this little silver cross thing to the top right. This is basically the "you've finished a quest but there's no one to talk to, so click here for the reward" symbol. I now do something that I've not done in an MMO for a very, very long time. I stop writing and just play. You see, when you're well versed in something, be that filmmaking or music or sports, you often spend more time analysing how something works and watching the little micro movements than you actually do spend enjoying the thing. But Rift does something weird. It does something not many MMOs do. It did nothing wrong for a long amount of time. When I play most bad MMOs, I spot bad things every few minutes, if it's Fiesta every few seconds, but I must have played for about an hour and a half and not written anything down. The fonts on the screen are all the same family and well-sized, from combat damage floating numbers to speech to the user interface text, and the UI itself is well-sized and well-scaled, with consistent outer edges and clean background colours. The ambient music matches the area, the sound effects of combat and running and enemy attacks are all great. It's not only not bad, it's quite good. The very first annoyance that I even write down is how I can't seem to buy multiple potions in the shop easily. I have to click buy for each one. To the bottom left, I can see there's also an activity finder which includes the dungeon finder, but I'm too low level for that right now. I do want to try a dungeon or raid before I stop playing, so I just keep questing to level up. I'm still trying to put together the words to explain the strange sensation of playing this, but while I do, let's go and read some reviews and see if anyone else feels the same way. What's the general consensus? Played this game since it first came out long ago, but ever since Tryon was bought by Gamigo, the IP has hit the dirt. No more expansion packs in the work, game locked, even more behind a paywall than it was when Tryon ran the show. It's just a sad, sad thing. Really sucks when these companies buy out these studios, put the game on rails and just tries to suck money out of people. My favourite features of the game are the versatility of classes, talent trees, the wardrobes and dyes, and dimensions. Rift has always provided a unique playstyle compared to most MMORPGs out there. There are features such as AoE looting, wardrobes and dyes, which came first from Rift that are now in other MMORPGs. I'm sad that there are no plans for the future. Sorry people, you're a decade too late. Rift was an amazing game, managed poorly by a greedy developer who made it free to play to chase bigger numbers while the game was doing fine. RIP Rift, you were amazing. 2010 to 2014. And despite Rift being what many would consider dead, the Steam reviews are actually mostly positive, both recently and overall. That's just made it even more confusing. Now, beyond all the reviews, if you're interested in a more in-depth look at the history of Rift instead of how the gameplay is now, check out Death of a Game, Rift. I'll link it below. Oh, there's water. Let's see how the game handles this. It's fine. Water graphics are nice, motion's good, buoyancy feels right, even the treading water animation looks good. They've animated the wrists moving backward and forward, which is correct. This quest now needs me to get some items and the game shows me the quest item log, held on the quest journal screen, a place where all quest items go so they don't fill up the main inventory, which is a great system. I mess around with the soul tree for a bit, then decide I don't really know what I'm doing with this yet, so I just do the recommended build. The game has a beginner path to follow. Oh cool, there's cape physics. Your cape billows as you jump. Wonder what happens if you run backward and jump. Of course, it glitches through your body. I guess we can't have everything, can we? Now we're at a pirate refuge with a fishing quest, which is cast your line, then right-click twice when there's a bite. And thankfully it doesn't take too long for each fish. There's even a nice little bit of platforming to get to the right part of the refuge to fish at. Then I jump in and there's underwater combat, with appropriate underwater combat sounds and visual filters. And this enemy drops an item that starts a quest. So far, Rift is impressing me quite a lot. Wonder why it didn't do too well. Don't worry, I'll explain that later. I kill a load more stuff, hand in some quests, then return to the main story plot and stand in this energy beam for a bit, which gives me a nice 1 hour passive buff. I do some more quests and some more rifts, and honestly, the core gameplay loop is solid. Combat is fine, quests are fine, and I've used that word a lot. Fine. This is the problem. It's become clear to me now. You see, 2011 was an interesting year for the MMORPG genre, giving us Star Wars The Old Republic, Terra, DC Universe Online, with Guild Wars 2 The Secret World and Blade and Soul only 1 year away. 2011 was a year in an awkward place. Not only did Rift have huge competition from other releases in the same year, it had heavy competition just round the corner. Any game that released in 2011 had to either be a breakout success or be doomed to fade away under the shadow of Guild Wars 2. There simply weren't enough players to support every game succeeding. And with the beautiful graphics and smooth action combat of Terra and the massive might of Star Wars behind the Old Republic, Rift, a new IP from a relatively new company, was always going to struggle. Then Rift's fate was sealed when it was sold to Gamigo years later, but more on that later in the video. Finally, in-game, I hit level 10, and this just opens up a load of stuff. First, I get a free gift from the shop. This is just a sneaky way of making me open the shop interface. They could have put this right into my inventory, but no, I have to open the shop and I have to click redeem, because we can't have that shop going unseen, can we? But what I'm most interested in now is this instant adventure finder. If you want to go grouped up with other people of your level on the same map and do overworld quests, you can use the instant adventure finder, and it sends you immediately to that group, and then you start playing. It doesn't care about plot or consistency or relation to where you are in the story. It's just, here's a group quest, off you go. But if overworld stuff is getting dull, you've also got Intrepid Adventures, which puts you into one of Rift's raids, effectively instantly. See, raids are always constantly flowing, and if there's a spot, you get put in, no matter how far through the raid the group actually is. So I do this for a while, and this system is both a blessing and a curse. Personally, I find raids remarkably fun. I think they're an awesome part of most MMOs, and most games are excited for you to get there, and gamers are excited to share them with you. But the anticipation of something, the build-up to it, is also part of the experience. And by slowly learning techniques and abilities as you get closer to the raid, you can guarantee then that every player in the raid will have a high level of skill, so you can make the raid complicated. It's like this: if you have played a game for months and they release a new bit and you play it, you'll appreciate it because you have months of knowledge to draw on, and you can say, oh, I can use my skills from here to do this. But if you went to a friend's house and you played on their character on their favourite MMO that you've got no experience with, no background, you're not invested, and they may say, isn't this raid awesome? And, well, you've not got much to go off to answer that question. You can say how it looks or sounds or how the surface mechanics seem, but you've got no time invested into the game and no emotional connection to any of the characters in it, so the raid to you has no emotional impact. You don't know who you're killing or saving or why. That's exactly how I feel here. It's great that I can be leveled up to 65 and thrown into a massive 20-man raid, with the raid scaling to our team size. It's great that I can experience mechanics and bigger fights and bosses and team quests, but that's all it is. It's a large-scale fight, a big enemy, and a click fest. I don't have any emotional attachment to my character or the world or who I'm fighting, and because I don't know why I'm here, the experience feels hollow. The raids in Rift seem to work as a series of sections of smaller maps, and when you finish a map, it asks if you want to immediately teleport to the next. The game is so eager to get you to the next set piece, it doesn't want you walking. It would find that too slow. That would kill the pacing in its own mind. It just says, well done, next bit. There's probably a story here. And here's the vital component: I'm not in it. As an MMO player, I don't expect to always be the chosen one, even though I specifically am here, but I at least expect to be involved or important in some way. And I have no idea why I'm here. I can objectively say the gameplay is good, but emotionally, this is void. The game is tripping over itself to show me its cool fights, and like a film with no plot, it's forgotten that set pieces don't bring the audience into the world. I'm also gaining so many levels in this raid. The experience from every enemy kill is shared, and I'm just power leveling here, even if I didn't want to. The voice acting, however, does have a very specific sense of humour. It's quite dry, and I find it very entertaining. Let's just have a listen to some of the better voice clips.
Fools! You have intruded upon the domain of the Lord of Nightmares. I will destroy you. Oh, it's you and your little friend. At first, I thought I was born of the various necromancy-fueled apocalypses you suffered through. That's why I've always had such good relations with ghouls and ghosts and other spooky things. Plus, they always reminded me of your dead, rotting corpse, which makes me smile. You'll never guess what laid these eggs ascended. Hint, it has more legs and eyes than you are comfortable with. No, it's It's not spiders. It's what spiders are afraid of. Then set their webs on fire, never to return for fear of glimpsing it again. Make the Ascended pay for having it better than you.
Piloting a cosmic vessel is quite an endeavor. The formless chaos is not quite as empty as the name would imply. There are eddies that must be navigated, flotsam of realities long gone, and pockets of proto-universes. Also bees.
And bees. That's very much Rift's sense of humour. Something epic juxtaposed with something not. Very tongue-in-cheek. I do more of the raid, I play through, and again, the humour perks up in the voiceovers.
Perhaps I need to change up my tactics a bit. If I can't kill you, maybe I can gross you out and you'll leave. Rise from the sewers, my new minions! Touch the Ascendant's face with your filthy pseudopods! Oh, you kiss your mother with that mouth? Disgusting.
So far, Rift isn't bad. In fact, in several elements, it's very good. The UI is fantastic, the small graphical flourishes are a nice sign of above and beyond detail, the skill system is vast and varied, the combat mechanics seem really solid, even in a raid. I've had no lag at all so far, and every player seems to be important. The scaling has balanced nicely, it feels that I am helping, but not overpowered. Even the story is suitably epic, even though I don't feel personally connected to it, fighting through a dream realm to free the goddess avatar of justice from a waking nightmare. I'd probably enjoy it even more if it worked up to it instead of being thrust on me, but that's a consequence of allowing players to join a raid without working up to it. It is the con that comes with the easy to join raid pro. Rift as it is now feels like a Michael Bay movie. It's flashy to look at, but I don't feel invested. I don't feel involved. Yes, it's impressive, but there's not much going on under the emotional surface yet. This is a long ass raid too. I've been here 90 minutes and we finally get to the final boss. I was kind of expecting something else too. I mean, this dude looks cool. He's definitely huge, but he's standing up tall and we're on this platform, so everyone is just attacking his crotch. We've basically fought through a nightmare zone of unimaginable chaos just so we can wail on this guy's rocky balls. The fight itself is flashy. There's ads and lasers and damage zones and mechanics, but still, Demon Crotch wasn't the boss I was expecting. Oh, by the way, by the end of the raid, I'm level 30. I was 10 when we began. And we kill the final boss and guess what happens? The raid just restarts from the beginning. No setup, no story, just boom, back at the start, same group, go again. I leave this group because honestly, after a 90-minute teleporting set-piece to set-piece rollercoaster of a raid, I need a break. This whole thing was a rush. It was non-stop. There are no down moments in a Rift raid. It's always doing something from start to finish, and that might sound good, but it's actually an issue of pacing. The highs only seem high if you've got the lows to contrast with. But after all that excitement, returning to the main game, the main overland story quest, just feels so dull. I just freed an avatar from a nightmare dimension and now I'm back to killing cultists. No! I've tasted raid content. I can't go back to this dull overworld questing. I find an NPC healer and pay off my death debt. The cost is trivial since I've made so much from the raid, and I try to follow the story quests for as long as I can. Let's just have a glance at the cash shop, shall we? A level boost to 65. Not the top level, but close. Costs 6,000 of these gem things. How much would that cost me? Wow, 30 quid. 30 quid to skip the leveling process, which honestly doesn't seem to take that long with raids, although people have told me it slows down around 50. Oh, there's also a patron system where you can become a member for £10 a month, and then you get bonuses in the shop and stuff becomes cheaper too. I also have a patron system, but that is only from £1 a month. Yeah, seamless plug. Oh, the cash shop, however, does let you buy what looks like very, very good equipment. I mean, look at the stats on this Celestial Slayer Warblade. I don't know if that's considered the best, but it's better than what I've got. So while I can't say this is definitely pay to win, it's definitely pay for an advantage. Back to basic quest, kill some mystics, burn some barricades, make some progress, and finally manage to put into words what makes Rift so odd. Rift isn't bad. It's not objectively bad at all. It's well made with solid systems and a fun gameplay loop, nice graphics, great sound, freeform class building and easy access to raids, but it's not world class either. The best way I can describe Rift is this. Imagine you're flicking through the TV channels because it's 1999 and people still did that, and you start watching an action film halfway through. You're not quite sure of the plot and the acting is passable, but you enjoy what you see. You likely won't remember it in the future, but your time watching it was enjoyable enough. That's Rift. If you've ever been walking around the shopping centre and heard some really good music playing in a shop somewhere, good enough that you stop and go, this music's really good, but not good enough that you actually go and find out what it was, that's Rift. If you've ever visited somewhere that's lovely and you had a great time and you'd like to go back again, but you're not actually bothered about actively making plans to go back again because it was good but it wasn't that good, that's Rift. Rift feels very safe. It wants to make sure the player has what they need, it does everything quite well, the equipment system is quite good, the graphics are quite good, the sound is quite good, it's the absolute epitome of quite good. And in the gaming world, that gets you noticed just long enough for something else to come along that's better. Rift is slightly above average cheesecake, it's the nicer bread at the baker's, it's just above average quality clothing. It's good, but it's not so good that you'll go out of your way to get it. I do more quests while I think of more ways to describe Rift because honestly I don't need to critique the mechanics or the design because they are solid. Rift's problem isn't a design one. It's an emotional one. Have you ever had a hobby that you really enjoyed but then one day you stopped and you just have no interest in returning? You don't dislike the hobby and you'll talk about it fondly, you've just not got any burning desire to pick it up again. That's how Rift feels to play. It's not bad, it's not fantastic, it's just an acceptable MMO released in a year when many acceptable MMOs released and a year before Guild Wars 2 released. I get a free mount from this gift box, it's a cool mechanical looking horse, but honestly I'm more interested in doing more raids. There's a theory in game design that if everyone likes your game but no one loves it, it will fail. Games need dedicated, fanatical fans to survive, and while Rift clearly has those, it just didn't create enough of them. Its release on Steam helped, but as is the problem with many MMOs, Rift slowly died. See, MMOs face a very paradoxical survival test. If no one plays your game will die, and no one wants to play a dying game. So the moment people suspect no one is playing your game, people leave, because they think it will die. Ironically, this causes the game to die. Saying this game is dead can cause a self-fulfilling prophecy where people leave because they believe other people are leaving. Rift had to compete with Star Wars, Terra, and Guild Wars 2, and any hint of failure would have caused people to abandon ship, which is unfortunately likely what happened. The locations in this raid, by the way, are fantastic. This crystal chamber has a fully 3D rendered ceiling, even though it doesn't need to be rendered, and it looks stunning. That's another strength. A lot of things exist in this game, especially graphically that I've noticed so far, that don't need to exist. That ceiling doesn't need to be detailed. Almost no player is ever going to look up for any length of time, but they did it anyway. The original design team here were clearly good, so I have a sneaking suspicion it's a combination of bad marketing and bad business decisions that killed this game, not design choices. If you like the raids in World of Warcraft but you don't want to pay a monthly sub, Rift is a decent substitute. The bosses have mechanics, are well voice acted, there's a sizable community remaining. I mean, it found me a raid twice within seconds as a DPS. Clearly there are people playing, but even within that raid, people come, people go, the raid continues. There's no connection to my team here. I don't feel this is our victory, it's just a victory. I don't know who's tanking or healing. I don't know who's doing damage with me. The names on the left keep changing so frequently I can't get attached to any one of them. This raid group feels more like a writhing mass, an evolving blob I happen to be in temporarily, instead of a defined team that I'm an important part of from the start to the finish. Every single map in the raid follows the same pattern too. It's quite paint by numbers. Enter a new area, kill X amount of enemies, pick up X amount of things, interact with X amount of objects, kill a bigger enemy and then move on. Lather, rinse, repeat. It's the same song and dance in every lovely looking area. In this zone, for example, click and interact with 20 corruptions on the floor, then kill 20 enemies. Now pick up 52 books, that's as a raid, not individually. This design isn't really gameplay, because there's no time limit, so no penalty for failure. It's a case of success given enough time. It's just content to fill space. This scenery, again, steals the show. This looks like something out of Alien. I feel like I'm on the Nostromo. But again, the gameplay loop is kill stuff, then pick up stuff, then bomb stuff, then talk to some pillars, then go and kill some more stuff, then teleport away. I don't know where I am in relation to the world. I feel so temporal, so transparent. Part of me feels Rift is a dream and I'll wake up and remember playing it, but it never existed. Rift is the little MMO that couldn't. It's the MMO equivalent of making an MMO character with perfectly balanced everything. You can kinda tank, kinda heal and kinda DPS, but not do any of them world class, so no one picks you. It's the poster child for good enough to be fun, but not great enough to succeed. Oh, these objects you need to interact with in raid maps, by the way, they reset quite quickly, so sometimes the best thing to do is just wait by one for reset and sparkle so you can click it again. It's boring but effective. We kill the raid boss, then the raid restarts, I think. So I ask in chat, is this the start? And I get the perfect response back. Some guy just says, dunno. I leave the raid. Dunno. Another player is with me just going through the motions, killing the enemies, collecting the loot, never asking why, just clicking buttons and watching flashing lights and feeling no real connection because Rift hasn't made us feel a connection. I have a chat in the general chat now and I talk to some more experienced players. I ask, why Rift? What does this game have that others don't? And Zaloon responds with, I don't know, I've not played enough MMOs to answer that. So I can tell you what Rift has based on that answer. It has very well-adjusted, mature players who are confident enough to admit when they don't know something, which is goddamn rare. We chat some more. Another player called Lewis adds he likes the unlimited skill point system and the freedom the skill trees have, allowing two similar classes to actually play very differently, which I can completely agree with. I then ask, why didn't Rift succeed? And everyone again answers saying how they're not able to answer that because it's complex, and yeah, they're right. Lewis mentions how Tryon used a difficult engine and the Steam released helped but wasn't enough, and again, he's right, so let me try and summarise the issues with Rift. Rift is made in the Gamebryo engine, same as MapleStory 2, Defiance, Fallout New Vegas and Wizard 101, and while it's a decent, versatile engine shown by those games, it's difficult to get the best from, so Tryon was setting themselves a difficult task from the start, but in their defence, they did a damn good job. They made a solid MMO with a decent gameplay loop and above average features for the time, graphically, sound and combat wise. But with so many other large scale and well funded MMOs released so close to it, Rift was swamped, and so player count went down because people thought player count would go down, a harsh paradox of MMO player bases. Then Rift was sold to Gamigo, and Gamigo don't care about developing games, only keeping them on life support while wringing them dry, fleecing every penny from every player. So Rift was hung out to dry with all the other unfortunate lot, Defiance, Trove and Arcade. Forever now doomed to be milked as a cash cow on life support until it dies, because Gamigo will make more money doing that than they will supporting and building it up. Rift was not a bad game, and despite Gamigo getting their grubby claws into it, it still isn't a bad game. But it's not a great game, and that is ultimately what led to it being forgotten within the annals of history. From a full physical CD release to being eclipsed by bigger titles and now fading away and milked dry. Rift is the song you liked as a kid but can't quite remember. It's the film you watched as a teenager but can't quite recall, save for one or two scenes. It's a forgotten game that was and still is good, but it won't ever be good enough. So Rift is more than competent as a game, but it got crushed because other better funded, more popular games happened to be released at the same time. It's not a mechanical failure, it's an emotional one. To show you how forgettable Rift is, what was the bad guy's name? I said it at the start of the video. Can you remember? No. Exactly. Rift isn't bad. It's just not good enough compared to others that released around the same time. So to end the review, I award Rift Regulos out of 10. Cheers for watching. If you want more worst MMO ever videos, then drop a like or sub to the channel. And a massive thank you to all my Patreon supporters and Twitch subs who make all my content possible. If you're enjoying the series and would like more, you can support the Patreon from only £1 a month. Comment down below with any game you think deserves the title of worst MMO ever, then check the video description for links to the Patreon, Twitch, Twitter and Discord. And as always, have a great day.